If you didn't know that an SNES port of Mortal Kombat called Mortal Kombat Nitro was intended to be superior to the arcade one, or that Cameron Diaz was training martial arts to play as Sonya Blade in the movie, you might want to stay and watch this video.
Say my name. Iceberg. You're goddamn right.
Many parents in 1992 were concerned about a new game that was the answer to Street Fighter 2's success. What made this game different from Capcom's fighting game were two key elements: its digitized actors and gore. These two things combined raised concerns among parents due to the violence depicted and how it could affect children's minds. It was this very controversy that gave Mortal Kombat what it needed to become one of the most successful fighting video game franchises of all time. Welcome to the Mortal Kombat 1 Iceberg.
You are done wreaking havoc, Terminator.
My mission is incomplete.
It ends now.
Reptile. I remember this green ninja popping out at random times with cryptic messages. Reptile was one of the most mysterious secret characters in video game history back then. Nobody really knew for sure how to find him, and to this day I don't know how magazines in the 90s discovered or obtained all the requirements to unlock all these secrets. The requirements for encountering Reptile are as follows. Play single mode. You must be at the pit stage. You must see a shadow flying by the moon, which doesn't happen always as it's completely random. You must avoid blocking enemy hits. Defeat your opponent with 2 flawless victories. You must finish your opponent with a fatality, and although you can perform a fatality by uppercutting the opponent in this stage, this won't count to find Reptile. Once you've met the conditions, Reptile will be waiting for you at the bottom of the pit. This character got his own set of moves for Mortal Kombat 2, but due to memory limitations, this character was programmed into the game combining both Scorpion and Sub-Zero's special moves. Once defeated, you would be granted 10 million points, nothing more, nothing less. Jean-Claude Van Damme. This Belgian actor was meant to be the main character of a game that Midway wanted to develop based on Van Damme's movie Bloodsport and served as an inspiration for Johnny Cage.
I finally meet Hollywood Boulevard Johnny.
Fans love me. Do you know what they'll pay for a selfie?
Van Damme turned down appearing in Midway's game because he was supposed to appear in another game on the Sega Mega Drive that never came to be, according to some sources. The next time that Van Damme was about to be involved in the MK franchise was in the 1995 movie, but once again, the actor rejected the role in favor of playing Guile in the Street Fighter movie. It's not until more than 30 years after that Van Damme has finally decided to be involved in the franchise, being a skin for Johnny Cage as well as providing his own voice for the upcoming Mortal Kombat 1, finally coming full circle.
It will be great. I'll play a kickboxer, you a street fighter.
Ermac. As if we didn't have enough with a yellow, blue and green ninja, there was a rumor of a red one in the game's code. According to legend, if you played the Sega Genesis for long enough, a message saying error macro would show up and Scorpion's yellow outfit would become red.
Error macro.
We are Ermac.
We're not impressed.
I don't know how Scorpion suddenly switching colors can become a new character. But never mind, we have Reptile, and Smoke, and Noob Saibot, and Rain, and Double Ice Backfire. If you played as Sub-Zero and froze an opponent, you may be curious about what would happen if you use your ice move for the second time. It doesn't really make sense, but if the user tries to freeze the enemy for the second time, he will be the one frozen. This is understandable, as the mechanic would prevent the user from prolonging the battle. Goro as a playable character. The original Shokan warrior, half human, half dragon, and a sub-boss of the original Mortal Kombat was a force to be reckoned with. With such power, it was natural we wanted to play as him, especially when on the character selection screen there was a spot where the portrait of another character could fit. This personally led me to think that if you beat the game under certain circumstances, you could unlock Goro. However, this is not the case, at least not in the most popular ports of the game. Interestingly enough, Goro is an unlockable character in the Game Boy port, which is considered to be one of the worst ports of the game. Censorship. Nintendo has been known for being, for the most part, a family-friendly company, and porting Mortal Kombat to the SNES was a tough decision. Apparently, they had no choice but to tone down the violence by switching the iconic blood with what appears to be sweat. But not only that, some fatalities were also modified in this version. Take for example Sub-Zero's finishing move, in which, instead of ripping the spine of the opponent, he freezes and punches him, shattering the frozen body. This was actually a very good fatality for Sub-Zero, as he actually keeps the central theme of his character. Nonetheless, there were terrible fatalities like Cage's kick and Kano pulling off his opponent's chest hair. This led Nintendo to lose the battle against Sega sales-wise, with its Mortal Kombat port, which, although it paled in comparison to the SNES version in terms of graphics, you could enter a code to enable blood and fatalities as in the arcade version. Multiple heads. This is a very iconic one. If you're quick enough to perform Cage's fatality twice, not only will you be able to tear the opponent's head off once, but twice. The glitch became so popular that it was implemented in Mortal Kombat 2. This also happens with one of his brutalities in MK11. ESRB. Violence in video games became more evident as games such as Night Trap and Mortal Kombat were released. The fact that these games had some realism in the sense that Night Trap and Mortal Kombat used real people to depict violence made parents worry about what their children were playing. But violence in video games didn't originate in the early 90s. Just take a look at this 1976 video game called Death Race. I wonder how it's possible that the ESRB wasn't created in that year. Nevertheless, Mortal Kombat was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it was in 1994 that the ESRB was created. Mortal Kombat movie. Video game movies had a rough start. Just go back and watch Super Mario Bros. And no, I don't mean that one, I mean this one. However, even though Mortal Kombat was in that era when video game-based movies were very bad, this movie was kind of decent, especially for its heavy focus on choreographed fights, and the fact that the plot of the game was easily translatable into the movie. Reviewers praised its atmosphere, fighting sequences, production values and visuals, and it's now considered a cult classic. Even Steven Spielberg, an avid fan of the Mortal Kombat series, was supposed to make a cameo appearance as a director in Johnny Cage's first scene, but due to his schedule, he didn't appear, although a lookalike director was used to reference this. Big Trouble in Little China. Considered a cult film, Big Trouble in Little China tells the story of Jack Burton, a truck driver who arrives in San Francisco Chinatown to visit his friend Wang Chi. Wang's fiancée Miao Yin is kidnapped by a powerful sorcerer named David Lo Pan. Lo Pan is an ancient and immortal sorcerer cursed to exist as a decrepit old man, unless he can marry a green-eyed woman like Miao Yin. Wang and Jack, along with a group of allies, embark on a mission to rescue Miao Yin and stop Lo Pan's nefarious plans. In this movie, there's a character known as Lightning who has a strong resemblance to Raiden, wearing a straw hat and is able to shoot bolts of lightning. On the other hand, Lo Pan, the evil sorcerer, served as an inspiration for Shang Tsung. Get over here. This iconic phrase has been present since the original MK up to the new 2023 Mortal Kombat 1. Many voice actors, especially in old games, go unnoticed. Does anyone know who the voice of Ryu and Ken in Street Fighter 2 is? Probably not. However, Scorpion's voice actually belongs to the co-creator of the franchise, Ed Boon, as shown in this video.
That's actually my voice yelling, "Get over here!" From the game.
No, is that true?
Yeah.
Oh my god, could we hear it quickly?
Get over here!
Oh my god, that was awesome!
Mortal Kombat ports. Same as Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat had tons of ports for many consoles such as the Sega CD, Game Gear, and Super Nintendo. Nintendo made the big mistake of heavily censoring the game to the point of making blood look like sweat, and several fatalities had to be changed completely in order to fit the kid-friendly console. This made the game sell poorly compared to its rival console, the Sega Genesis, whose game, although initially censored, has a code that enables all the gore the game is known for. As if Nintendo hadn't made enough mistakes, the Game Boy port is considered one of the worst with unresponsive controls, awful graphics, terrible music, and the lack of Johnny Cage as a playable character. As stated before, the only interesting thing about this port is that it's the only one in which you are able to play as Goro. Mortal Kombat behind the scenes. The team who created Mortal Kombat at Midway was very good at documenting the making of the game, and this included a series of videos in which we can see the actors performing the iconic moves we are familiar with, and also some others that weren't included in the game due to memory constraints. In spite of the gore, you can see that the actors are having a lot of fun in the movie set. Daniel Pesina's lawsuit. Daniel Pesina is widely known in the MK universe for being the actor who played Johnny Cage, as well as the ninjas in the original game. The problem arose when Mortal Kombat was selling more than expected, and Daniel was wondering where his income from those sales was. Midway promised it would pay the actor, but nothing happened, so he decided to file a lawsuit against the company. There was a rumor stating that he got into trouble when he appeared in an ad for a game called Bloodstorm, using Johnny Cage's costume. The poster reads, "Daniel Pesina, who starred as Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat, has switched to Bloodstorm." Although it said that Pesina didn't have any permission to use the character, he mentioned that he actually got permission from Midway to do this, and that the problem wasn't a copyright infringement, but the fact that he wasn't getting paid. As far as I know, this was the reason why Cage didn't appear in Mortal Kombat 3, and in spite of Pesina's absence, he continues to promote the franchise and the character, and he's considered one of the most charismatic and nice people linked to the MK universe. Twilight Zone. You might already be familiar with the Techno Syndrome song that served as the Mortal Kombat theme for the 1995 movie. If you compare it with the song Twilight Zone by 2 Unlimited, you can actually hear a strong resemblance between the two. Some people have even stated that the Immortals ripped off the song, but I guess the lack of lawsuits is proof that it was nothing more than a coincidence. Pac-Man. A curious Easter egg not too many were aware of is that if you look at the very right of the Palace Gate stage, you can see an engraving of Pac-Man eating a pellet. There's also a ghost, but due to the lack of color, we cannot make sure if it's Blinky, Pinky, Inky or Clyde. Mortal Kombat ripoffs. Mortal Kombat ripoffs refer to any game from the 90s that had digitized actors, gore, or both. There are several interesting cases such as Tattoo Assassins, which was never officially released, but was at an almost complete stage. What's interesting is that the game had the involvement of Bob Gale, the screenwriter for Back to the Future. Not only that, but the game supposedly had more than 2,000 fatalities. Talking about Midway's rival, Capcom wanted to experiment with digitized actors as seen in the Street Fighter the movie game. Even though I haven't tried it, many people say that it's a terrible game with awful controls and generic music that doesn't resemble anything from the original work of Capcom.
Game over!
Time Killers, Kazumi Ninja, among others, were examples of products that wanted to be like MK, but completely went down in flames. Blanca destroys Mortal Kombat. Back in the 90s, it was common to see a constant battle between video game companies like Sega, Nintendo, and Atari in TV commercials. Take for example the Genesis does what Nintendo don't add, or the blast processing from Sega that showed how fast and fun Sega games were in comparison to Nintendo ones. Something like that was done by Capcom in a commercial I'll put here. Take a look. Cancelled Mortal Kombat HD remake. Mortal Kombat HD Collection was a planned fighting game remake developed by Other Ocean Interactive featuring 3 titles from Midway's Mortal Kombat franchise, that is MK1, 2 and 3. It is said that Warner Brothers didn't have enough faith in the project, so they stopped it, but iBallistic, a group of fan modders, wanted to continue the project where it was left off, so they did what they could, but being a small team, they were unable to pay actors and instead used 3D models for the characters. Somebody at Warner contacted the team, basically to tell them to stop developing or promoting the game as it infringed copyright. However, they decided it would be a good idea to register and trademark some of the assets they were working on for this project to give it more of an official status. Once done, they gave it a second chance with WB, and they were able to show the project to Ed Boon himself, who was pretty impressed with their work. The only problem is that given that they were fan modders, WB required them to work with an official licensed studio to develop the game. So they got in touch with a studio, but once they presented what the cost would be, WB turned them down again. They gave them another year to find a studio with a lower cost to give the project the green light, and that's what they did. They found such a studio, and Ed Boon as well as people at Warner were even more impressed than the last time. Imagine having the chance to be part of your favorite franchise and show your work to the creators themselves, being able to officially participate in such a project, and being told that you have the green light, just to receive a heartbreaking message a week later saying that they couldn't trust the development of such an important project to a team without any completed titles. Cameron Diaz. Bridget Wilson, a former actress, singer, model, and Miss Teen USA, is mainly known for playing the role of Sonya Blade in the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie. However, this wasn't originally intended, as there was another actress who at the time was shooting The Mask with Jim Carrey. Cameron Diaz was actually practicing martial arts after she had secured the role of Sonya Blade in order to get ready for Mortal Kombat, but shortly after, she broke her wrist, and being unable to take the role, she had to be replaced with Bridget. Mortal Kombat characters in sports. Another game launched by Midway in 1993 was NBA Jam Tournament Edition. Although nowhere to be found after Revision 2, Midway included 8 hidden characters, among which Raiden, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile were present. At the request of the NBA, these characters were completely removed. However, Revisions 1 and 2 include these fully playable hidden characters. Apart from this, Raiden also makes an appearance in the NFL Blitz series as a secret character. Raiden's gibberish. We have Hadoukens, Sonic Booms, Yoga Fires, and many people since 1992 have been wondering what Raiden really says. Here are some suggestions made by different people.
I use the guy with the little hat.
Raiden, the mythical thunder god.
He did the whole move where he'd fly across the screen and go, Santa Monica!
Some people thought that Raiden was speaking Japanese, but Midway revealed that it was only gibberish. Recently, however, Daniel Pesina shed some light on the matter, stating the following.
So we're going to position Carlos on this chair, on these stairs, and it's maybe 10, 12 inches wide. So as he's positioning himself on it for the first time, Carlos gets on it and he lifts his feet up, but he was in a position where it smashed his nuts. So when he picked up his leg, he was like, oh, and we were all laughing. And I know that they used that idea later on when Raiden is coming at you, because originally Carlos smashed his nuts when he was actually doing that move. It's pretty funny. Yeah, so that's like one of the jokes of it.
Nimbus Terrafo. This character was yet another rumored fighter, part of an April Fool's joke in a 1994 issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly. Supposedly, he was an Afro-American kickboxer who could have been unlocked at the pit stage by entering a code when Reptile showed up with the message "Look to La Luna." There are a couple of screenshots of this character, however, we can see how disproportionate he is compared to Kano, hinting that the character was fake as indicated by his name, as faux means false in French. Goro is a pet. This is a short one, but Goro makes a cameo appearance in an unreleased Judge Dredd game for arcades, also by Midway, using graphics from the original Mortal Kombat, where a background character is taking a miniature Goro for a walk as if he were a pet. Mortal Kombat Bloodsport Edition. As stated before, Jean-Claude Van Damme was an important inspiration for Mortal Kombat. A YouTube user known as the Van Damme Fan 2009 uploaded a video titled Mortal Kombat Bloodsport Edition, in which he adds elements from the Mortal Kombat game into the movie, such as music, sound effects, fatalities, and even a Test Your Might minigame where Van Damme breaks the bottom brick from a pile in the game style. On top of that, he actually references the classic triple head punch fatality by decapitating Chun-Li thrice with backward spinning kicks. This user also did something similar with Street Fighter 2 and Van Damme's Lionheart movie, so please go check out his channel. Mortal Kombat Nitro. After the lukewarm response to the SNES version of the game, developer Sculpture Software, who handled the Super Nintendo port, proposed releasing an updated version for the system titled Mortal Kombat Nitro, which would feature additional content such as new costumes, an expanded story mode with multiple endings, and Goro, Shang Tsung, and Reptile made playable, in addition to the restoration of blood, the original fatalities, and the implementation of new ones. Besides this, they wanted to include the great Kung Lao, the Shaolin monk who was defeated by Goro as a secret character to replace Reptile. The game would have also played faster, in the same fashion as Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and a prototype of it was made, but development was stopped in order to fully focus on the SNES port of Mortal Kombat 2. The biggest change would be the player's ability to choose light or dark paths in the tournament. If you chose a good character such as Sonya or Liu Kang, and only killed bad characters such as Kano, you'd unlock a new costume reflecting your alignment. If you killed other characters, you would turn evil, and therefore get a good or bad ending depending on who you choose to perform fatalities on. I can't believe we made it, guys, 1000 subscribers. I'm really happy to share this with you as it motivates me to create more content with higher quality. If you're familiar with my channel and you're not subscribed, please give it a chance, and I'm sure you'll find a lot of content to enjoy. Once again, thank you so much for the support, and I'll see you in the next one.